All right, here we go. Our tour through walking working surfaces. Very important part of OSHA. It's kind of, we think of it too much because generally these people on slips, trawls, and they don't get killed. I'll fall from another level. That's a different story. But there are not a lot of deaths from trips and falls on the same level. But there are a lot of injuries. So we are going to get right to it here and talk about the next section, 29 CFR 1910.28, walking working surfaces, duty to have fall protection and falling object protection. So let's get right on down to it. 1910.28, general. This section requires employers to provide protection for each employee exposed to fall and falling object hazards. Unless stated otherwise, the employer must ensure that all fall protection and falling object protection required by this section meet the criteria of 1910.29, which we'll talk about next, except that personal fall protection systems required by this section meet the criteria of 1910.140. Gravity kills. 25,562 people die from falling each year. So we need to call Congress and demand a gravity get out because gravity kills. This section does not apply to portable ladders. We talked about this. It does not apply when employees are inspecting, investigating, or assessing workplace conditions or work to be performed prior to the start of work or after all work has been completed. This exemption does not apply when fall protection systems or equipment meeting the requirements of 1910.29 have been installed and are available for workers to use for pre-work and post-work inspections, investigations, or assessments. This section does not apply to fall hazards presented by the exposed perimeters of entertainment stages and exposed perimeters of rail station platforms. Kind of hard to fall protection here. To powered platforms covered by 1910.66J, to aerial lifts, to telecommunications work, to electric power generation, transmission, and distribution work covered by, I can read that section. So, protection from fall hazards, unprotected sides and edges. Except as provided elsewhere in this section, the employer must ensure that each employee on a walking working surface with an unprotected side or edge that is 4 feet or more above a lower level is protected from falling by one or more of the following. Now, this is 4 feet. So this is one of the things that's a little different about construction and general industry. Construction is 6 feet, general industry is 4 feet. So it's got to be protected by one or more of the following: guardrail systems, safety net systems, that's literally a net that's hanging up, that's on the side, you fall into the net, or personal fall protection systems, such as personal fall arrest, travel restraint, or positioning systems. In other words, a personal fall arrest is the harness stuff, and it has a lanyard that gives somewhat as you fall and stops you falling a little slower, but you're still going to fall. And you're going to fall pretty long ways. And then also when you fall on those things, you're going to swing. And that's where people get hurt too. They fall and then they swing into something. Travel restraint. Now that's a good one. You need to have some kind of a belt around you and something to hook onto so you can't get to the edge of the whatever it is, the precipice that you're looking over. Positioning systems. So when the employer can demonstrate that it is not feasible or creates a greater hazard to use guardrail, safety net, or personal fall protection system on residential roofs, the employer must develop and implement a fall protection plan that meets the requirements of 29 CFR 1926 502K, that's construction, and training that meets of 29 CFR 1926.503. So those are construction standards, and we're not going to delve into those right now, or in this course. Note to paragraph B1. Paragraph B1 is what we just read. There is a presumption that it is feasible and will not create a greater hazard to use at least one of the above listed fall protection systems specified in B1I of this section. Accordingly, the employer has the burden of establishing that it is not feasible or creates a greater hazard to provide the fall protection system specified in paragraph B1I, and that it is necessary to implement a fall protection plan that complies with 1926 502K and the particular work operation in lieu of implementing any of those systems. When an employer can demonstrate the use of fall protection systems is not feasible on the working side of a platform used at a loading rack, loading dock, or teaming platform, the work may be done without a fall protection system. This is a loading dock, basically, provided the work operation for which fall protection is infeasible is in process. Access to the platform is limited to authorized employees, and the authorized employees are trained in accordance with 1910-30, which we're going to cover a little later on too. So I'm playing a loading dock. That's so. I think we'll get a little more detail on that. Hoist areas. Employees must ensure that each employee in a hoist area is protected from falling 4 feet or more to a lower level by a guardrail system, personal fall rest system, or travel restraint system. When any portion of a guardrail system, gate, or chain is removed, and an employee must lean through or over the edge of the access opening to facilitate hoisting, the employee is protected falling by a personal fall arrest system. If grab handles are installed at hoist areas, they meet the requirements of 1929. This is for hoist areas now we're talking about. This is section 2. Everything under paragraph 2 now is hoist areas. There's a lot of stuff in here. And if you have a hoist, you look into it. But if you don't, then of course it doesn't matter. Holes. The employer must ensure each employee is protected from falling through any hole, including skylights, that is 4 feet or more above a lower level by one or more of the following: covers. Usually the skylights are covered with an opaque thing that lets in some light. Guard, or they can be covered with a barrier that's completely open, that there's bars across it, like you put on a window, but on a guardrail. On a skylight. Guardrail systems, travel restraint system, or personal fall arrest systems. So the only exception there they added was for a hole was a cover. Each employee is protected from tripping into or stepping into or through any hole that is less than 4 feet above a lower level by covers or guardrail systems. So this is even a hole that's less than 4 feet. You really don't want somebody walking along and stepping on a full hole that's 2 feet. I mean, that could break a leg easily. Each employee is protected from falling into a stairway floor hole by fixed guardrail systems on all exposed sides, except at the stairway entrance. So sometimes stairway has to have a hole in it to come up through the floor, right? So however, for any stairway used less than once per day, where traffic across the stairway floor hole prevents the use of a fixed guardrail system. For example, holes located in aisle spaces, the employer may protect employees from falling into the hole by using a hinged floor hole cover that meets criteria 1910.29 and a removable guardrail system on all exposed sides except at the entrance to the stairway. So stairways used less than once per day. You'd have to kind of make sure you could prove that. Each employee is protected from falling into a ladderway floor hole or ladderway platform hole by a guardrail system and toe boards erected on all exposed sides except at the entrance of the hole, where a self-closing gate or an offset must be used. When they did the stuff at Heisner, they put in a mezzanine. It's kind of neat because they had the control for it was more of a computerized setup we ever had before, and all that stuff, and they can look out over the plant and this mezzanine. And there was steps going up on one side. The other side just had a ladder going up to it. So, and then they had at the top there was a gate. Well, they made the gate open up the wrong way. So if you were on the platform and you push against the gate, it's supposed to open outward, but it can't open past. It's supposed to open towards you so that you can't push the gate and go out. It would open the other way. So if you push against the gate, you're gonna fall. Right? You push against the gate and you haven't stopped, so you can't fall out. I mean, this is, like I said, you gotta watch contractors. They'll do everything as fast as they can because that's how they get paid. The quicker they get done, the more money they make. So you gotta watch contractors when doing anything that's involved in safety. Each employee is protected from falling through a hatchway and chute floor hole by a hinged floor hole cover that meets the criteria 1910.29 and a fixed guardrail system that leaves only one exposed side. When the hole is not in use, the employer must ensure the cover is closed or a removable guardrail system is provided on the exposed sides. A removable guardrail system and toe boards on not more than 2 sides of the hole and a fixed guardrail system on all other exposed sides. The employer must ensure the removable guardrail system is kept in place when the hole is not in use. Now this is for B again. We're on B. A guardrail system or a travel restraint system when a work operation necessitates passing material through a hatchway or chute floor hole. Now, these things exist. It's pretty efficient. A lot of times, if you have a product that you can get it down from one floor to another through a chute or something like that. We, and even in Pittsburgh at the old plant, when the drape manufacturing facility, when they were done, they went the end of when they were packed up and they were in boxes, and they slid them on what they call the roller platform type of thing, and went into a chute, and it went down from the second floor, the third floor, down to past the second floor, down to the first floor where shipping was, and that worked out pretty good. Got clogged up once in a while, but not that bad. The employer must ensure that each employee on a dock board is protected from falling 4 feet or more to a lower level by a guardrail system or handrails. A guardrail system or handrails are not required when dock boards are being used solely for materials handling operation using motorized equipment. So basically, when you're loading a truck with a forklift, employees engaged in these operations are not exposed to fall hazards greater than 10 feet. And those employees have been trained in accordance with 1910.30. So you see, they're putting a lot of training here, and we're going to talk about that. Runways and similar walkways. The employer must ensure each employee on a runway or similar walkway is protected from falling 4 feet or more to a lower level by a guardrail system. They're worried about this, but they're not worried about airplanes on runways. That's not the kind of runway they're talking about here. They're talking about a walkway that's like, usually, like when they talk runways, are usually something is usually up in the air for maintenance, that type of thing. Usually, I don't know what exactly they're referring to because they don't say, unless where you work, you have models. I don't know. The employer could document that it is not feasible to have guardrails on both sides of a runway used exclusively for a special purpose. I'm thinking again, models. Why don't models have guardrails on the sides of runways? The employer may omit the guardrail on one side of the runway, provided the employer ensures the runway is at least 18 inches wide, and each employee is provided with and uses a personal fall arrest system or travel restraint system. Dangerous equipment. The employer must ensure that each employee less than 4 feet above dangerous equipment is protected from falling into or onto the dangerous equipment by a guardrail system or a travel restraint system, unless the equipment is covered or guarded to eliminate the hazard. So that makes a lot of sense. Even if it's less than 4 feet, if you can fall into something that's going to hurt you, then it has to be guarded too. And that makes sense. Each employee 4 feet or more above dangerous equipment must be protected from falling by guardrail systems, safety net systems, travel restraint systems, or personal fall arrest systems. Openings. The employer must ensure that each employee on a walking working surface near an opening, including one with a chute attached, where the inside bottom edge of the opening is less than 39 inches above that walking working surface, and the outside bottom edge of the opening is 4 feet or more above a lower level, is protected from falling by the use of guardrail systems. So the inside, okay. I see what they're saying. The inside edge is 39 inches. So in other words, it's about 3 feet, 3 inches. And it's 4 feet below that, because you could still get under that 3 feet, 3 inches. Repair pits, service pits, and assembly pits less than 10 feet in depth. The use of fall protection system is not required for a repair pit, service pit, or assembly pit that is less than 10 feet deep, provided the employer limits access within 6 feet of the edge of the pit to authorized employees trained in accordance with 1910.30. Now you see those in maintenance, automobile maintenance places or vehicle maintenance, and you see them in your Jiffy Lubes and that. Well, and that's why they don't want people out there for obvious reasons. But people fall into those pits, and it happens. So how do they do that? That's what they're talking about here. Okay, they're talking about 8I. 8II, they have to apply floor markings at least 6 feet from the edge of the pit in colors that contrast with surrounding area, or places a warning line at least 6 feet from the edge of the pit, as well as stanchions that are capable of resisting, without tipping over, a force of at least 16 pounds applied horizontally against the stanchion at a height of 30 inches, or places a combination of floor markings and warning lines at least 6 feet from the edge of the pit. When 2 or more pits in a common area are not more than 15 feet apart, the employer may comply by placing contrasting floor markings at least 6 feet from the pit edge around the entire area of the pits. and post readily visible caution signs that meet the requirements of 1945 and state caution open pit. So that's the way for you to get around having the pits covered. And the basic thing, the most thing to me, I would think around pits is just keep people away that don't belong there. Fixed ladders that extend more than 24 feet above a lower level. For fixed ladders that extend more than 24 feet above or lower level, the employer must ensure each fixed ladder installed before November 19, 2018 is equipped with a personal fall arrest system, ladder safety cage system, cage, or well. So these are basically ladders that go up the side of a building. Usually, I think we're talking about they have the cage around them. But now new fixed ladders, each fixed ladder is installed on or after November 29, 2018 is equipped with a personal fall arrest system or ladder safety system. In other words, those cages are there. They're not very good fall protection systems. They're just there to be sure when somebody falls, you can find the body. Just kidding. So when a fixed ladder, cage, well, or any portion of a section thereof is replaced, a personal fall arrest system or ladder safety system is installed in at least that section of the fixed ladder, cage, or where the replacement is located. The final deadline on and after November 18th, 2036, all fixed ladders are equipped. So 2018 is when it starts kicking in. By 2036, they all have to be like that. So they give you like 18 years. What this means now on these ladders that are like that, instead of this cage around it, you have to have a personal fall arrest system. And that's usually a harness. And then you have something that you can slide up and down on either one or two sides on a cable or a rod or something that you can hook onto that if you fall, it catches you. When a one-section fixed ladder is equipped with a personal fall protection or with a ladder safety system, or a fixed ladder is equipped with a personal fall arrest or ladder safety system on more than one section, the employer must ensure the personal fall arrest system or ladder safety system provides protection throughout the entire vertical distance of the ladder, including all ladder sections. And the ladder has rest platforms provided at maximum intervals of 150 feet. That's pretty far, 150 feet for a ladder, but they want rest platforms. Why do they want that? Because they don't want you to be too tired when you come up and climbing up a ladder. That makes sense. The employer must ensure ladder sections having a cage or well are offset from adjacent sections and have landing platforms provided at intervals of 50 feet for a cage. The employer may use a cage or well in combination with a personal fall arrest system or ladder safety system, provided that the cage or well does not interfere with the operation of the system. So you can have both. Outdoor advertising and billboards, the requirements in B9 of this section and other requirements in subparts D and I of this part apply to fixed ladders used in outdoor advertising activities. And that's still specific, so I'm not going to delve into that too much. But here's what it says. When an employee engaged in outdoor advertising climbs a fixed ladder before November 19, 2018, that is not equipped with a cage, well, personal fall arrest system, or ladder safety system, the employer must ensure that the employee, well, since this is already passed, I guess there's not too much sense on delving into that, huh? The employer must ensure that each employee exposed to an unprotected side or edge of a stairway landing that is not talking about stairways, 4 feet or more above a lower level is protected by a guardrail or stair rail system. Each flight of stairs having at least 3 treads and at least 4 risers is equipped with a stair rail system and handrails as follows. Now, if you remember when we were doing the stairways thing, they refer to 1910.28. Here's what they were referring to. So, but here's the kicker right now. Each flight of stairs having at least 3 treads, which are 3 steps, and at least 4 risers. So 4 risers is your key, is equipped with a stair rail system and handrails as follows. And this really depends on the stair width. If it's less than 44 inches and it's enclosed, in other words, on both sides, you have to have at least 1 handrail. Okay, if it's enclosed. Now, if it's open on one side and on both sides, if it's open on one side, you have to 1 stair rail with a handrail on the open side, and 2 open sides, 1 stair rail system on each open side. So you have to have, okay, and does that make sense? Of course it does. Now it gets to be 44 to 88 inches. You have to have, and it's enclosed, 1 handrail on each enclosed side. And if it's open one side, one stair rail system with handrail on the open side and one handrail on the closed side. And if it's two open sides, one stair rail system on each open side. That makes a lot of sense. Now, greater than 88 inches, that's pretty wide. One handrail on each enclosed side and one intermediate handrail located in the middle of the stair. So that's a stairway that's greater than 80 inches. So one handrail on each enclosed, if it's enclosed, and an intermediate rail. If it's open on one side, stair rail system with handrail on the open side, one handrail on the enclosed side, and an intermediate one too. So it's kind of the same thing, except instead of you have a handrail and a stair rail. And if it's two open sides, one stair rail system with handrail on each open side and one intermediate handrail located in the middle. So you can see that it's pretty consistent there. And exterior stairs less than 44 inches, one handrail on at least one side. Note to table, the width of the stair must be clear of all obstructions except the handrail. Each ship stairs and alternating tread type stairs is equipped with handrails on both sides. Remember that they mentioned that too. Scaffoldings and rope descent systems. The employer must ensure each employee on a scaffold is protected from falling in accordance with 29 CFR Part 1926, Subpart L. And each employee using a rope descent system 4 feet or more above a lower level is protected from falling by a personal fall arrest system. And again, that's construction. Work on low slope roofs. When work is performed less than 6 feet from the roof edge, the employer must ensure that each employee is protected from falling by a guardrail system, safety net system, travel restraint system, or personal fall arrest system on a low slope roof. When work is performed at least 6 feet, but less than 15 feet from the roof edge, so at least 6, so it's at least 6 feet away, but less than 15, so between 6 and 15 feet, the employer must ensure each employee is protected from falling using a guardrail system, safety net system, travel restraint system, or personal fall arrest system. The employer may use the designated area when performing both work that is both infrequent and temporary. When work is performed 15 feet or more from the roof edge, the employer must protect each employee from falling by a guardrail system, safety net system, travel restraint system, or personal fall arrest system, or a designated area. The employer is not required to provide any fall protection, providing the work is both infrequent and temporary, and implement and enforce a work rule prohibiting employees from going within 15 feet of the roof edge without using fall protection in accordance with B13I and II of the section. So if you got a roof and you keep people, if you got people up there for like maintenance or air conditioning, stuff like that, if you can keep them 15 feet away from the edge of the roof, then you can do it if you train them. And slaughtering facility platforms, the employer must protect each employee on the unprotected working inside of a slaughtering facility platform that is 4 feet or more above a lower level from falling by using guardrail systems or travel restraint systems. When the employer can demonstrate the use of a guardrail or travel restraint system is not feasible, the work may be done without those systems, provided the work operation for which fall protection isn't feasible is in process. Access to the platform is limited to authorized employees, and the authorized employees are trained in accordance with 1910.30. So walking working surfaces not otherwise addressed, except as provided elsewhere in this section or by other subparts of this part, the employer must ensure each employee on a walking working surface 4 feet or more above or lower level is protected from falling by guardrail systems, safety net systems, or personal fall protection systems, such as personal fall arrest, travel restraint, or positioning systems. Now, that's from falling. Here's one of the problems you have on these personal fall arrest systems. It's not this, it's a lot of training. You have to wear them right, but you got to have a place to tie off. And it has to be a place that's approved by an engineer to withstand 5,000 pounds of force. And I'm surprised that like on new housing, just new housing, they don't require on the roof, in the middle of the roof somewhere, a big old place to tie off on for people who work on a roof. Because let's face it, might be a new house now, but 10, 30 years from now, it's going to be a roof. So people are going to be up on there, but they don't. And any other the regular businesses, then it's hard to find proper places to tie off on. That's one of the biggest problems of the fall protection using the harness and the personal fall arrest system. So protection from falling objects. When an employee is exposed to falling objects, the employer must ensure that each employee wears head protection that meets the requirements of subpart I of this part. In addition, the employer must protect employees from falling objects by implementing one or more of the following. Okay, now in addition, the hard hats, okay? Erecting toe board screens or guardrail systems to prevent objects from falling. Erecting canopy structures and keeping potential falling objects far enough from an edge, hole, or opening to prevent them from falling to a lower level, or barricading the area into which objects could fall, prohibiting employees from entering the barricaded area, and keeping objects far enough from an edge or opening to prevent them from falling to a lower level. So that's a lot of stuff in that particular section, and a lot of it has to do with the stairways, and they said on the fall protection thing, that's the biggest problem is where do you tie this off to? When the guy that worked for me when I first got to OK Foods, went to go for work at Mars, he called me and he says, "You're gonna love this." I said, "What's that?" He says, "Well, we had a guy up in an office on a ladder, and he had a harness on. And do you need a ladder on a harness and a fall protection on a ladder? No, you don't. I mean, inherently, ladders are just places that aren't real safe unless you use them properly. But it's not real feasible when you use a ladder to change a light bulb. They put a fall restraint system on. But anyhow, he told me, he says, but here's the thing. He had this harness on and fall stuff, and he had it clipped onto the cross member that's holding the suspended ceiling in place. Now you fall off that ladder. You think that's going to stop you? Now you're going to fall off the ladder and then get hit and hit the floor and get hurt. Now you're going to have the ceiling come down on top of you too, because those things aren't very sturdy. You're going to pull that ceiling down, I don't care how much you weigh. So that's the biggest problem with that type of thing is, again, is where do you tie this thing off to? And that's never thought of ahead of time. They build a building and then they put the equipment in it. Now you got to get up on top of the equipment, and they never thought about putting a place on there. So if you're involved in new construction on anything and that comes up, and bring that up, say, okay, we need to have places up there where we can tie off on, because boy, that would help you tremendously. And of course, we're gonna, here's again what happens, and I've seen this happen, and is that the purchasing department wants to keep the prices down, costs down, and you know, be careful, because the first thing they'll do is get away with safety items. Oh, we could put a ladder here. Nah, that's going to cost too much money. Don't do it. So now you're stuck. Now you got to figure out, okay, how do we get up there? You know, or put for fall restraint tie offs. No, it's going to cost too much. So they won't do it, and now you're stuck. So anyhow, that's part of the pitfalls being a safety guy, a safety person. But you deal with it when it happens. That's all you can do. So. All right, I'll be back at you shortly with another exciting chapter.